Game 54, Wolves versus Brentford, on the 10th of February 2024, titled, You've Let Yourself Go. The day starts out wrong, if you know what I mean. I go against previous warnings by getting up late and going for a latte with my wife before heading to the train station. Remember my wee adventure? It carries on with a wrong feeling too. When I arrive at Oxford Parkway, it's unfeasibly busy as I purchase my ticket. I glance at the board and it's a forward carriage train stopping everywhere en route to Marylebone. I make a dash for the platform as I'm in plenty of time, station myself on the platform near the screens where coach 1 will stop, on the yellow stand behind line alone, for a while. Almost immediately there is an outpouring of people, not emotional, as a cafe empties ahead of the train. People understandably realise that this is going to be a charge for the seats, but an old chap and his wife and dog flank me to my left, almost stood on my toes. His wife and their dog are to his left. This is starting to feel like a defensive war move by an attacking side, where one attacker leans into the wall to create an opening for a free kick to go through. I just know he's going to lean in and turn his back square to allow his wife free passage onto the train. I understand the ploy and I understand the logic, but this is stop 2 and there will be seats. I am a little affronted by the scheming though. Considering it's good to get a seat, it doesn't feel as though there's going to be none left. At this point you may well think, well, what about you then? I agree, but my knees will not stand for an hour and 20 stood up. So as the train approaches, he duly employs a tactic to allow his wife and dog on. He is so close that he leans and turns. I could count the number of hairs in his ears. I do drop a little sarcasm in his ear, both about his chivalrous nature towards his wife and his seat grabbing, by saying, you are both old and infirm, so I wasn't going to let you stand. In all honesty, they could have been younger than me. Anyway, I get a seat and the train is rammed by Tame. Standing room only, and I am penned against the window. I couldn't do anything about a young couple who was standing apart with a very young baby who was hungry but felt for the parents as people looked on. I arrived at London Bridge Station earlier than usual to meet my eldest who wanted to borrow some mobile phone gimbal off me. So I also had an idea of getting some PR shoots on the concourse for the images from my podcast artwork. I am, like many other people, not at all photogenic in my own eyes, but I felt my son could conjure up something with good use as artwork. Ever since I've been born, I've been a bit of a chubmeister, all the names, bouncy, bonny, big bone, portly, sturdy, thick-set, etc, etc, until ultimately some 5 years ago I pretty much brought on my own diabetes type 2. If it didn't move, I ate or drank it. Some 5 years ago, with a waist size surpassing my age, the doctor read the Riot Act and in fairness he was right. So my mental switch flipped. I ate fuck all and drunk no alcohol and was no fun to be with at all. If we went out for a meal, I ate lettuce and devoured it like it was the finest steak ever. It really pissed my wife off. But I lost 6.5 stone and felt good about myself, and that also led to calls from people saying you can eat a little of what you want when you fancy. But I know me, it's all or nothing with me. One pizza will be like an alcoholic's first drink. It'll all be over. Why am I telling you this when discussing photos on London Bridge Station concourse? Because after I left my son to go into work, I looked at the photos and yes, I've let myself go massively over the last 12 months. It appears that I am hokey-cokey and with diabetes once again. Booze, chocolate, pizza, sarnies all being devoured after a deprived 5-year absence. If only I could do moderation. Today's fare is Wolves Brentford. Fare could be used to describe a trader's food. Will it be a footballing feast? Feasts are food related. And as I sit on the train typing this with my sausage-shaped fingers and pork pie hat on, I think I am indeed obsessed with food. Wolves were flying recently and Brentford were drifting alarmingly to the wrong end of the Premier League. Brentford had 8 missing whilst Wolves were all fit. Well, how wrong can form be? Brentford won at a canter, really. Goals from Norgard and Tony, and chances falling to Mopé with 4. Rowers left with 1 against a Dawson header ruled out by VAR. 6 inches of a left foot denying Wolves an equaliser, and chance to change the game. I said the day started wrong, and in fairness my performance was just a little bit disjointed. I think I threw in a 5 or a 6 today. There was nothing wrong, but I just felt a little down after it. I travelled back to Marylebone via the tube and arrived in plenty of time for the train I needed. I get onto the train with my large latte and of course 2 steak slices from Greggs. See, it's comfort eating at its best. A moment on the lips is a lifetime on the hips. Game 55. Aston Villa versus Manchester United on the 11th of February 2024. Titled, Tired, Sore and Worried. Oh dear, I have a groany throat. Not really sore, but one of those where you can feel it. Am I fit? And I mean by commentator fit. Remember, Rangers? I am back in the now christened Gary Briggs studio today. I was a little off it in commentary terms yesterday and was apprehensive about today's game. No one's a machine, but I feel a bit unfit. Though Villa versus Manchester United should be a good game. I've witnessed some indifferent performances from Erik ten Hag's side. Maybe I am fearful of being off colour. It's a 4:30 kickoff, so I have most of the day to continue with my other job. And let me say, whilst it can be rewarding, it's not as enjoyable as sports work. Let's just say I have 3 AFC Cup games coming up this week, and researching football is a lot easier than trying to research or create space where there is none. I'm not a miracle worker, but I can say I turn wine into water. Well, you're right anyway. The last 15 months have been a slog mentally for myself. So it seems picking myself up and driving myself on is a continual cycle. But isn't that life in general for everyone? I recently had a chat with a young man who was a counsellor. He asked me how I was, and I asked him about the street lighting and potholes in the roads. He looked at me and said, he's not that sort of counsellor, he's more about mental health. I smiled and we chatted. But during the chat I said I'd really not go down this route in terms of discussing the futility of our existence. When he asked me, what do you look forward to in life? That question was like the day in life when your wife has gone from lingerie to big pants. That this is the life moment. I couldn't answer, so I asked him the same question. His answer was seeing friends and going for a meal or a drink. I quaintly put it to him by saying, is that it? His head dropped, knowing that wasn't really anything to look forward to. So I counselled him for the remainder of our time together, and then I prescribed him Prozac, 2 tablets a day taken in the morning. Pathetic really, I tried, but I've spent lots of years wondering what it's all about. Well, what it is about is Unai Emery's villains, who have been a revelation in the Premier League against a rather un-united looking United. So am I fit? Is the throat okay? Is it a groan, not gruff? I slip into the booth and do a microphone test and look at the team news whilst looking at Villa's undeniably poor record against United. I'm fueled up by a litre of water by my side and we're off. I keep general stats as the game progresses, corners and cards, etc. But one stat that worries me is the 3 coughs as my throat went dry after water intake and a little nasal catarrh. Not catarrh as in the country, but the top of the nose, throat, thick stuff. Quick check with Mission Control, looks as though I've covered these issues. Højlund scored for a front foot United before Villa took the ascendancy to equalise through Douglas Luiz, whose goal celebrations in front of the whole tent were different. He was on one knee and he shook his shoulder from side to side, a bit like a belly dancer would. A late McTominay header saw United win, and it was a very good game to commentate on, and it also remained true to my life's adage. But in life, when I look forward to something, it always disappoints. If I fear or don't want to do something, it's often a lot better. And yes, I have tried to kid myself, but my own mind knows when I am trying to double bluff myself. I return home after a short drive to greet my wife and Rocco. One wags its tail and is glad to see me, and the other one is not happy as my son's dog has been yapping the whole time. The little Yorker, well, he's sweet. Gets thrust into my arms like a crying baby would when it's your turn to deal with the devil incarnate. Okay, that's enough enjoyment for the day. Disappointingly, I still have work to do, and I feel it could be a late one. Game 56, Central Coast Mariners versus Phnom Penh on the 13th of February 2024. Titled, Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? It's a Monday night and I'm in London for my eldest son's one-man show in the heart of London in a cabaret bar. It was a success once again and we all meet up afterwards and go for a drink. My wife and I are staying in London so I can get across to the studios for an early check-in of 7 a.m. The night carries on and it's around midnight before we arrive back in our hotel room. I quickly get ready for some kip, then realise I need to be up and out by 6 a.m. This old geezer is going to get around 4.5 hours kip. With 2 games today, stroke tomorrow, well, it is after midnight. I'm up like Usain Bolt on the alarm and outside for 6 for an Uber across London. With the most unchatty of Uber drivers, I arrive ahead of my scheduled check-in time. There is already someone in. Brenners greets this tired old man. He'll be unaware of this silly old fart being out too late on a school night. But the complexities of a married man and a family and a wife who gives me so much time to do all the things I want to do mean I have to take a risk on this particular occasion. Is it a risk worth taking? Well, only time will tell. I settle into booth 9, check out some stats and ask a few questions. I was a little perplexed when I saw some games were over 2 legs, but my particular game was a one-off with extra time and penalties if needed. Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't need a dour struggle for 120 minutes when feeling like a sack of sleep-deprived shit. I have covered for this company several AFC Champions League games and knew the sort of format or layout of what's required, and I assume makes an ass out of you and me, that the AFC Cup, a sort of Europa League equivalent, would follow the same format. Now, I've seen some poor sides in the Champions League, so what standard awaits me here is my initial thought. It doesn't matter how much research you do on sides, trawling through league records and results and formations, etc, etc, etc. Where does the level of performance rank? They might have finished second in the Cambodian Premier League, but just how good is the Cambodian Premier League? Therein lies the question. I do a microphone check and we have to do a faux goal shout for the purposes of levels. We are off and running, and 10 minutes before kickoff I am running through various things. All going to plan. Then the game itself, built up by myself, actually starts. And it's a poor spectacle. Early on, and I'm already reaching for a way to build some climax in the game, using phrases like the calmness of this match belies its importance, it's a semi-final so nerves will affect the players, and you can sense a tension in this must-not-lose clash. Let me point out the following. The calmness of this match belies the importance actually means, fuck me, this is poor. It's a semi-final, so nerves will affect the players actually means they can't pass to each other. And of course, you can sense the tension in this must-not-lose clash. That one is a digger, for fuck's sake, give me something to talk about. I can understand that the AFC are building something akin to the European equivalent, but the lack of quality can do harm to the product. Let me try to give you an analogy. Women's football is a great product, but, and there is a but, a smoking of a scoreline in women's football just brings out the old bigots decrying it. So in a way it harms what I think is a good product. You get a big scoreline occasionally in a men's game, but the mindset for some unknown reason is totally different. Why, I have no idea. Some people struggle with changing their ingrained perspective. Anyway, the Australian side eventually romp home winning 4-0. Sounds nice and easy and the score suggests that, but it wasn't until the 72nd minute that it changed. One up from the first half, and the second half a hat-trick by Edmondson. A pom sealed the deal. But in all honesty, it wasn't a good watch. On our kits today, we have a cough button, which we depress when a cough appears on the horizon. Today, I needed a yawn button. Maybe my fault, maybe not. Brenner's had forewarned me about the end of the game, instructing me that the result strapline would come up at some point, and then you have around 2 minutes 10 to wrap up. Now, when you think of that, 2 minutes and 10 seconds is quite a long time. That is quite a long time for 1, to talk about a poor game, and 2, to mentally clock the length of time in your head as there's no time facility in these booths. I think there is a show on TV where contestants have to mentally count seconds to win a prize, or on another show where they have to say when the words start on a song intro. Both of those will demonstrate how difficult that is, and they are usually 15 to 25 seconds, not 130 seconds. Needless to say, I crashed the credits. Brenner's was annoyed with me. I'm a little jaded, but I thought the annoyance towards me was a little harsh. I took the critique, sat down, reflected on it, and went back to Brenner's. I sort of tried to fight my corner, mentally counting, etc., with no booth clocks. And he said he felt a bit responsible, as he should have been across it. So maybe some solace, as I don't think he really wanted to hurt me.